On today's Strictly Vikings, we're going to talk the Vikings' rest of the season outlook and what it looks like in a loaded NFC North division. Of course, we're going to take our side eye look around the league, talk about the rest of the NFL for a majority of the show, considering the Vikings didn't play this last week. We're going to take our Facebook scroll of the week. We're going to preview the game against the Lions, see how people are feeling, just how I'm feeling about the game as well. And of course, we'll end it off with our ChatGPT player of the day. So let's get into it. Today is Wednesday, October 16th, and the Minnesota Vikings have their hands full. I think the biggest takeaway from this weekend is that the NFC North is a loaded division. Packers, Bears, Lions all put on very, very, very impressive performances. And before I get into those performances, I want to preview the rest of the season for the Vikings. No game to talk about with the bye week. So I just want to kind of run through what the schedule looks like, where I think the biggest stretch for this team is going to be, maybe some players we can acquire before the trade deadline come November 5th. Is anything else happening on November 5th? Can't remember. NFL trade deadline. Big day, though. Big day in America. So I just want to run through this schedule to see where we're at, see what I think it's going to take to win the NFC North. Obviously, big game this Sunday against the Lions. Huge game. Set the tone for the rest of the season. Set the tone for the NFC North. Show who is boss. And whoever wins this game is going to be atop of the NFC North, and they might never give it back. It's that simple. We're at the Rams on a short week, Thursday night football, when the Rams will probably be getting Puka and Cooper Kupp back. But the good thing for the Vikings might be getting TJ Hawkinson back. So that would be huge to pick him up for a short week game. It's going to be a tough game, and I would not be surprised if the Vikings are very slim favorites, or even if the Rams are favored a little bit if they get those guys back. We're at home against the Colts. Should be a decently easy game. Obviously, depends on if Anthony Richardson or Joe Flacco is playing, but I think B-Flow should be able to scheme something up for either of those quarterbacks and not really make it that big of a deal. The Vikings have 3 away games in a row at the Jaguars, at the Titans, at the Bears. 3 very winnable games, but they're on the road, and winning on the road in the NFL is not an easy thing to do. So you're not going to apologize for winning on the road like you did against the Giants. And you're not going to apologize for beating the Jags, Titans, and Bears if you do so 3 weeks in a row. Say you drop one of those. Say you drop one against the Lions. Say you drop one against the Rams, and you drop one in that 3 to 4 game stretch where most of those are on the road. That's 3 losses right there. You might lose to the Packers again because usually the Vikings and Packers split. It's just historically proven, I would say, most of the years the Vikings and Packers split. You have a 3-game home stretch against the Cardinals, Falcons, and Bears. Those are all very winnable games. So let's say they win those 3 games. They lose to the Packers again. So we're sitting around 4 losses. And of course, you have games at Seattle, which is not easy. And then you finish it out with the Packers and Lions. I believe 12-4 or 13-4 will be good for a division win for the Minnesota Vikings. But I believe 12-5 is where you get into the tiebreakers with the Lions and arguably maybe the Packers. I don't know. It's going to be tough to say. I think the Bears are the odd man out in the NFC North. I think it's just going to be too loaded of a division. The Bears having to play the Packers twice, Lions twice, Vikings twice is very difficult for them. So I can't imagine those division games going all too well for that Bears team. Future looks great. This year, I'm not too sure. I think 13 wins is where this team needs to get. And I think it's very possible, winning 8 of your last 12. You split against the Lions, there's a loss. You lose to the Packers, that's a loss. Say you lose to Seattle, and then say you drop one to either the Jags, Titans, or Bears on the road. Those 4 losses. I think that's a very good estimate on where this team will be come playoff time, obviously we could sweep the Packers. We could sweep the Lions and we could sweep the Bears. But I think there's going to be a loss in there that we're not expecting as well. So we'll see how it plays out. Come free agent time or come trade deadline time, I think the Vikings need to target an interior defensive lineman pass rusher. The Vikings have been great against the run this season, but they've been struggling to get to the quarterback without blitzing. Their pass rush ranks 27th in the NFL right now, according to PFF. And I believe getting a guy like DeForest Buckner, Dexter Lawrence, would be an ideal situation for this Vikings team. A guy that can get to the quarterback on the interior and help out guys like Van Ginkel, Grenard, Dallas Turner on the outside. Now, the Vikings don't have the most draft capital going into 2025. So trying to get a guy without giving up a lot of capital for 2025 is going to be tough. That's why I believe DeForest Buckner is the better option right now. I think he's going to come at a cheaper price. I don't think it's going to be a cheap price because he's great. He is on the last year of his contract. So if you're willing to move him for, fourth, fifth round pick, maybe you don't have to sign him. But the Vikings also have a lot of cap space. Maybe you want to sign him to an extension after this year and pay him. I wouldn't mind that at all. It's a position that the Vikings need right now. And I think maybe trying to trade for a guy that you want instead of waiting for him to hit free agency, especially when your team is 5-0 and looking great and looking in a great position in the NFC. I think it would be very ideal for the Vikings to maybe make a move for an interior pass rusher like DeForest Buckner. Um, all right, let's take our side. I look around the league here. Let's talk about the Lions, Bears, and Packers, who all put on very impressive performances. The Bears came against a hurting Jaguars team, though. A Jaguars team that really has nothing going for them. I'm surprised Doug Peterson is actually still the coach for this team. A 1-5 team led by one of the most expensive quarterbacks in the entire NFL shouldn't be 1-5 through 6 weeks. But that's the way the cookie crumbles. And the Bears are winning games they're supposed to win. However, the 4 games they have won have come against 1-win teams. So they've beaten 4 teams, and combined, those 4 teams have 4 wins. That's rough. Some would say it's a cupcake schedule, but they're beating the teams they need to beat. And that's what you're supposed to do. You can't determine what the schedule is in the NFL. So you're supposed to beat the teams in front of you, and that's what the Bears are doing. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to the Bears when they have to play the Lions twice, the Vikings twice, and the Packers twice. That's going to be the true testament of what this Bears team is and who they are at the moment. The Packers, the Cardinals turned into probably arguably the dumbest team I have ever seen in my entire life during that game. Jordan Love was just chucking that ball off his back foot, and the Cardinals defensive backs didn't pick. They got 1 interception, but they didn't pick any of those jump balls off. Cardinals secondary is terrible. And you were just letting Jordan Love get away with these just crappy throws, crappy decisions. And Jordan Love was getting away with all of it because the Cardinals defensive backs couldn't make any plays. The Cardinals got a muffed punt. They got bailed out by a phantom. The Packers got bailed out by a phantom horse collar tackle. It's just unbelievable the stuff that goes on in Lambeau. It honestly needs to be researched. The stuff that happens inside that stadium when an away team comes in. It's like they're playing freaking 6-on-5 in basketball, dude. It's like you're playing 13-on-11 in football. It's unbelievable. The Lions obviously had a beat down against the Cowboys. This isn't the Cowboys team of the last couple of years that have won 12 games in the last 3 years. Or I should say they've won 12 games in each of the last 3 seasons. It's not the same Cowboys team. This is not the same Cowboys team. They're not nearly as good as they were in previous years. I mean, this is a Cowboys team that was struggling against the Browns, struggling against the Giants. It's Steelers. It's a tough watch for the Dallas Cowboy fans right now, and I'm all for it. And I'm all for the Lions beating up on the Cowboys. It's setting up for this Vikings game to be huge. But I'm telling you, this Cowboys team is not nearly as good as what they have been in the past. So I'm not trying to discredit the NFC North wins here, but whenever you beat a team on the road 47-9, absolute dismantling of an NFL team, of an NFL franchise. Excuse me. And I'll give you credit for that. You don't apologize for winning on the road in the NFL. I give credit to that. I give credit to the Packers for beating the Cardinals, who aren't that good, but I'll give credit where credit is due. Congrats on the win. The Bears, you beat the Jags in London. Tough to do. The Jags always play better in London. Kind of home field advantage for them. I don't mind that win at all, and you dismantled them. So congrats to the NFC North. It's going to be a very, 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 very interesting end to the season with all of these good teams in one division. It's going to be crazy. I think this might be the best. This is obviously the best start the NFC North has ever had, because this is the only time through 6 weeks that all four teams have had 4 wins since 4-team divisions were a thing. A lot of fours in there, I know, but since 2002, first time that's happened. First time every single team in the division has had 4 wins since 2002, since 4-team divisions were a thing. Um, let's get into some other games here. The Falcons and Panthers played. Didn't really care about that one. Kirk Cousins, I mean, Falcons are looking better and better every week. It's kind of refreshing to see a Kirk Cousins versus Andy Dalton game. Seems like a blast from the past. All around more exciting game than I thought it was going to be, but you know, this game was still just whatever you want to say. The Buccaneers are looking more and more like a legit threat in the NFC, and the Saints do not. The Saints, man, the fall off was big, and I know Derek Carr is hurt, and I know Spencer Rattler started that game, and he actually looked halfway decent. But man, the Buccaneers are looking legit. Their offense is looking awesome, and if they can get that defense rolling like they have in the past couple years, this is a team to be worried about in the NFC. And honestly, it could be a second round matchup for the Vikings if depending on how things shake out. But I would imagine the Buccaneers go on and win that division. I believe they'll win some close games against the Falcons later in the year, but we'll see. Maybe we'll get a Falcons wild card against the NFC North Vikings in the playoffs. Something to think about. Drake May actually looked pretty solid in his debut. I know a lot of people liked him coming out of the draft as an option for the Vikings, and as did I. I thought he played pretty good in his debut. He looked pretty poised for a rookie quarterback. He made that one deep throw to Booty, who that was an amazing throw. It was on a rope, and that's what Drake May does. He was making some plays with his feet. He was reading the field. I thought it was an overall great performance for the first start for the rookie. Obviously, they didn't get the win, but they were playing against a good Texans team, so you can't blame them for that. But I think Drake May will continue to get better. Put some weapons around him. He'll probably be even better. And of course, a better offensive line will shake things up as well. But I don't know. I think Drake May looked good in his first game as a starter. The Ravens continue to look dominant against good teams in the NFL. I mean, a 7-point win against the Commanders, a red hot Commanders team, is a very good sign for this Baltimore Ravens team, who are honestly probably the second best team in the NFL behind the Packers. Or but no way, I just said that. Second best team behind the Vikings. Um, I was thinking the Lions, and I was thinking the NFC North. I don't know why I said that, but they're probably the second best team in the NFL behind the Vikings. Um, they have probably the best offense in the NFL, and if they can get that defense rolling like it was last season, I know they're missing some guys, but they also still have some studs on that team. If they can get that defense rolling like they did last season, Ravens are going to be a very dangerous team in come playoff time. But the Eagles are not going to be looking like a dangerous team. Man, the Eagles are hanging on for dear life against the worst team in the NFL. A 4-point victory against the Browns is brutal. Brutal. I have no idea how the Eagles were 8.5-point favorites in this game. I bet on the Browns because this Eagles team should not be 8.5-point favorites right now. That is just an awful look for line makers. I can't believe they still credit the Eagles that much. And I can't believe the Eagles haven't fired Nick Sirianni. The antics that go on after, before, and during the game is unbelievable. Him chirping his own crowd because they were telling him that they should fire him. him barking back, come on, dude. Why are you going to go down to their level? They paid money to come watch your football team play, and you're going to get down on their level and start arguing with your fans. And I know they're scumbags. They're Philly scumbags. I realize that. But at the same time, you're an NFL coach making millions and millions of dollars, and you're going to stoop down to some Philly scumbags level saying because he's saying you should be fired, and he's probably right. The fan is right. 12 wins, 13 wins last year in arguably the most disappointing 12-win team of all time to go into Tampa Bay and get absolutely dismantled by Baker Mayfield in the playoffs after having Super Bowl aspirations the entire year. You send Jason Kelsey, one of the best centers and one of the best Eagles of all time. His going away party is an absolute shit show of a meltdown that is the Philadelphia Eagles. And Nick Sirianni needs to be fired if the Eagles actually want a chance at doing something this season. And I know it's tough when you're 3-2 and you're not 1-4 or 1-5, whatever you want to say. And when you have a winning record and you're winning games, you're not going to fire your coach. But the Eagles aren't playing up to what the Eagles should be playing at. This is not a good Eagles team right now. When you're scraping and crawling for a win against the Cleveland Browns at home, it's terrible. Any good team in the NFL, if they got the Browns at home, they're dismantling them. That's how bad the Browns are. The 49ers picked up a big win as they proved it doesn't matter who the hell is playing running back. They beat a Seahawks team on Thursday night. Short-handed Seahawks team. I wouldn't say the 49ers are that short-handed, but short-handed Seahawks team. 49ers took care of business. And as long as Shanahan is calling the plays, it honestly doesn't really matter who's lining up there at the skill position because it seems like they're going to get it done. Kyle Shanahan's a great coach. 49ers are one of the best teams in the league. And I'm glad the Vikings have already played them because that's usually when you can get them early in the season. It seems like the 49ers are always a little suspect to start the year. All right, let's hop into our Facebook post of the week. Nothing too crazy this week, I would say. Just a lot of people really worried about the Lions game coming up, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. But let's get into it. Someone said, I want the trick plays this week. Shove it down the Lions' throats. I mean, you got to really hate a team to be running trick plays when you're up 35 plus. And I love it. I mean, people hate the Cowboys. The only people that like the Cowboys are Cowboys fans, and then everybody else just absolutely hates them. I mean, there's like, you either hate them or you love them. I don't think there's any, I don't have no feelings about the Cowboys. I hate it. Run up the score on them every time, run those trick plays. But I would love to see the Vikings run some trick plays against the Lions if the Vikings get up. Or if they just want to run them in the second quarter of the game, why not? After seeing what Detroit did to Dallas yesterday, this Sunday's game scares me. I'm just saying. Why does it scare you? The Vikings are 5-0. I get it's going to be a tough game, but this is what happens when your team is good. You play in tough games against tough teams, and they set up for these Goliath matchups. You should be excited about this game. It should not be, I'm scared. What are you scared about? This is a great test for this football team, and we're going to see what the hell this team is made of this Sunday. Someone posted the video of the Justin Jefferson catch against the Packers and said, Darnold is the only quarterback we've had to be able to make this throw in decades. I mean, that's just crazy. Decades. We're talking about Brett Favre. Brett Favre was here, 15 years ago? Dude, come on now. Let's be real. Kirk Cousins made that throw, literally that exact same throw in the exact same end zone to Adam Thielen too. So I don't want to hear it. Justin Jefferson is better than Randy Moss. See, it's the bye week. People are just grasping at things. People are just throwing things at the wall, seeing if they stick. And this one did because it's got 143 comments. We can have this debate all damn day. But let's just say this. It's not going to be a debate, or it's not going to be up for debate until Justin Jefferson retires and we see his final stat line and the impact that he had in Minnesota. If Justin Jefferson wins the Super Bowl here, no doubt about it, he's better than Randy Moss. Let's just put it that way. Would the Vikes be undefeated with JJ starting at quarterback? I honestly think they would be. It's not like Sam Darnold is going out there and like having these clutch drives, um, winning games on like the last play of the game type stuff. I mean, Sam Darnold's playing great. Do I think JJ McCarthy would be playing as good as Sam Darnold? No. But I do think the Vikings would be undefeated just because Kevin O'Connell has a great scheme. We have great weapons, and the defense is the best in the league right now. So I think JJ McCarthy could easily step in. And obviously, it's going to be different for a rookie instead of a veteran, but I think JJ McCarthy could easily step in and have this team at 5-0 or even 4-1. So it's a good question to be asked if they're going to be undefeated, but I do think JJ McCarthy would have this team in a very, very, very similar spot. If the Vikings play the second half like they've been doing, we're toast. Do what the Lions did. Keep piling on the points. I agree with this. The Vikings have been struggling in the second half. And honestly, it's tough to kind of keep your foot on the pedal when you're up so much. I know it sounds like it wouldn't be, but you don't want to give a play to the other team that instantly gets them back in the game. And it's a good point because if you do play soft in the second half, the Detroit Lions will run you over because it seems like they get better as the game goes on, especially that run game with Montgomery and Gibbs. So being able to keep our foot on the pedal, I would imagine it's going to be a close game. So I would imagine Kevin O'Connell's going to have his stuff up his sleeve for the second half. The NFC North is dominant this year. The Vikes could easily end up in last place before Halloween. I mean, this is just absurd. Last place before Halloween? Halloween is in like 2 weeks. And people are saying last place? That doesn't even make any sense. I mean, I guess technically we could be in last place, but like, why do you think that? Why do you think that? It just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, maybe now that I'm thinking about it, it's like it's possible, but like even if we are in last place, we're still going to be 5-2 coming up with the easiest part of our schedule. So if we're in last place, it's not the end of the world, especially in a good division. There's something so satisfying about watching Rodgers lose. He always has this befuddled look on his face, crybaby of the century. That comes from Monday night's game, but I just wanted to read it because that's freaking very true. I was watching Rodgers up close in London, and there's nothing better than seeing that dude get sacked by Harrison Smith and getting up and just being like, God, dude, can this dude retire? Like, we feel the same way about you, Aaron Rodgers. We feel the same way about you, buddy. That concludes the Vikings Facebook scroll of the week. I know it was a short one, but again, bye week. Not a lot of people posting about the Vikings. Um, Punishment update. Obviously, haven't had to do one of these. If you're new to the podcast or new to my content, I made a list of punishments that I would have to do if the Vikings lost to the corresponding team. Obviously, I haven't had to do any of those punishments yet. This week, it is I have to listen to Eminem the entire day if the Vikings lose to the Lions. I think I'm going to go album by album and just like rate them all. It's going to be a long listen. I don't think I'm going to do every single album, but I'll make a video recapping them and seeing what I think about the albums if the Vikings end up losing. But I don't think I'm going to have to worry about that. Let's get into this Vikings versus Lions preview. I can't remember a Vikings versus Lions game with this much anticipation. I mean, this is anticipation. This is pretty exciting stuff. The Vikings and Lions haven't been this good at the same time in a very long time, setting up for a monster matchup on Sunday. The Vikings are looking to beat the Vikings for a fourth straight time. This would be the first time in over 60 years since that has happened. It's always tough to be a division opponent 4 times. Actually, don't ask the Patriots that question because it's pretty easy for them. But if the Vikings lose, and that's the 4th straight time to the Lions, things are definitely going to be changed up in the way the NFC North used to be. Detroit Lions, Chicago Bears, bottom feeders in the NFC North, especially the Detroit Lions, bottom feeders. And if they beat the Vikings for the 4th straight time, I mean, they're here and they're, it's going to be a tough look. Losing to the Lions 4 straight times is something I would never think would happen against the Vikings. Brian Flores was asked about the matchup, and he said, I like to fight fire with fire. I mean, inject that into my veins. He gave off a little smirk after he said it too. I absolutely love it. I love fighting fire with fire. You're not backing down from the fight. You're going to play your game. You're not going to let their game dictate your game. And we're going to see what the hell happens on Sunday. But we're going to play our game and we're going to show up with our best players and our best schemes. And we're going to run it. We're going to run US Bank Stadium. Let's just put it that way. Stopping the run game for the Lions is going to be most important. When they struggle to that, I can't talk. When they struggle to get the run game going, they're slower in the play action. They're slower to get the pass game going. And the Vikings have been great against the run this year. So I want them to continue that. You don't let the run game get going like it usually does for the Lions, and you slow down the rest of that offense. I know it's easier said than done, but that's what needs to happen. Exploiting this secondary with our weapons is also going to be key. Our players are better than yours, and that needs to be established early. Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison are better players than what you have in the secondary, and that needs to be established. That needs to be noted, and the Lions need to feel that early in this game. You can't cover us. Nobody in the NFL can cover us, and that needs to be a key emphasis for this Vikings offense. Obviously, it's going to be dictating the run game if Aaron Jones plays or not. I believe he was running around at practice today, but we'll see come Sunday if he plays. That's going to be a huge help to get that run game going. But Jefferson, Addison, better than the Lions players. That needs to be established early. Don't turn the ball over. I mean, KOC is undefeated when you win the turnover battle. Undefeated. And if you're not going to win it, you go even. You don't give the Lions extra possessions. You don't let them create easy scenarios for them to score. You don't give them a short field. You can take some risks here and there, but I like punting the ball and making the Lions drive the field each and every time they have the ball. Don't give them a short field, nothing easy. And on the flip side of that, give the Vikings offense a short field. We've been great at turning the ball over this year. So let's get one or two of those. Even just one could switch the entire momentum of this game. And it's going to be key for the Vikings defense to keep that up. And lastly, I do not want you Vikings fans ducking the smoke. The Vikings are a great team. The Lions are a great team. This is going to be a fun game and a big matchup. And this is what happens when your team is good, when your division is good. You play in big games against good teams to see where your team is at in the regular season. I don't want a cupcake schedule like the Bears. I don't want to play the Jags every week. I don't want to play the crap Cardinals at home. I want a tough schedule in a tough division so I know exactly what I'm getting out of my football team come playoff time. And the Vikings are going to be in the playoffs, and we're going to know exactly what this team is capable of when that time comes around. So stop ducking the smoke. Stop saying you're scared of the Lions. For Christ's sake, it's the Lions. It's still the Detroit Lions. I'm aware that they're good. It's still the Detroit Lions. They should be scared of us. We're undefeated. We haven't lost. We haven't trailed in 4 games. We're 5-0, and we're at home in front of the best crowd in the entire NFL. They should be scared to come into US Bank Stadium and be worrying about what they're getting themselves into this Sunday. Don't be scared. Vikings fans are unbelievable for being scared going into this game. What are you scared about? If we lose the game, we're 5-1. We're 5-1. This isn't like a season-ending loss if the Vikings lose. If the Vikings lose a competitive game, everything is going to be all right. If the Vikings get absolutely, totally demolished, we have a different conversation. But there's no reason to be scared. The Vikings are going to go. The Vikings are going to do this. It's the Detroit Lions. It's going to be a big game. And we'll see what happens. I'm excited. Like I said, there hasn't been a game like this in so long, a Vikings versus Lions game in so long that has had this much anticipation. And I'm typing in ChatGPT right now. I'm sorry. I'm getting a little sidetracked, but like I got worked up a little bit there. But don't be scared. All right. Name the most random Vikings player you can think of. Don't be scared. This is a big game. And I don't want you Vikings fans scared. I want you bringing the noise on Sunday. Detroit's coming here, man. Detroit's coming to the 612. So let's do it. All right. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Think of your Vikings player right now. I'm gonna go with Brian Robeson because I missed that long hair. I missed that visor. I think he's just good. All right, here we go. Name the most random Vikings player you think of. Here we go. ChatGPT says John David Booty. No way. That was one I could have gotten. No way someone said John David Booty, though. Anyway, big game against the Lions coming up. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. We're going to talk about it all next Wednesday, and we're really going to see what this team is capable of come next Wednesday. I appreciate you guys. Have a good one.